All right, next up, let's talk about Ohio State.
Stroud gets the ball, rolls to his left to the Wisconsin 20, looks back to the right, dumps it on the right side, wide open, the 9, Stover, and he bulldozes his way into the end zone for his first collegiate touchdown.
How about Ohio State on offense? Oh my gosh. Now, there's a lot of directions I wanted to go with this. You know, I could have been the old man yelling at the clouds and I really like their traditional uniforms, but I'm not going to be that guy because the black uniforms was really cool. It was a blackout. It was cool. I could harp on their schedule and be like, man, when is this team going to go on the road? Well, October 8th is when they're going to go on the road for the first time, but I'm not going to do that either. I'm just going to be here and tell you really plainly, Ohio State has the best offense in the country. Period. And every week, that gets more and more solidified. They've got a quarterback that's playing at a ridiculously high level in C.J. Stroud. They've got an offensive line and running back room that it really doesn't matter who's carrying the ball. They're successful. They can run it inside. They can hit home runs outside. They've got a wide receiver core that it doesn't matter if you take away their wide receivers. If one of them, maybe the best one, Jackson Smith and Jigba, is on the sideline in street clothes, they'll still be successful. It's ridiculous how good they are on offense. This was the number one scoring offense and total offense in the land a year ago, and there's no reason to believe that they're not going to be that again this year. They've got the best play caller in the country in Ryan Day. By the way, everyone knows who's calling the plays for Ohio State, and this guy is a true architect. He lays a foundation for their offensive success throughout the season, throughout the game. His sequencing and his rhythm is impeccable. I've talked to Urban Meyer a lot about this, and Urban Meyer's had some really good play callers. He's played against some really good play callers, and he says Ryan Day's the best one he's ever had. I think when it comes to offensive football, Coach Day is a bit of a savant. He's on a different level than maybe anybody. And that's not going to stop this year. They've got 27 touchdowns. That's the most in the country. By the way, tied with maybe my new favorite team, the Kansas Jayhawks. That's right. I think that every podcast is going to get a Kansas Jayhawks reference. More on that, by the way, on the Wednesday episode, because I'm pissed off at the AP voters. You guys suck. How is Kansas not ranked? But that remains for another episode. Coming up on Wednesday, my defense of the Kansas Jayhawks, undefeated, 27 touchdowns on the year, not ranked. Stupid. Let's go back to Ohio State, though. This offense is really unstoppable. Okay, they do everything well. They put pressure on every area of your defense. And this isn't like they just did it to some bad team. This Wisconsin team, they might not be great this year, but that's still a Jim Leonhard defense. That's still a defense that should be one of the better defenses in the Big Ten. And they shredded them, 52 points, 539 yards. But we already knew all of that. Joel, tell me something I don't know. You just said, hey, Ohio State's the best offense in the country. Great. That doesn't mean anything for me if I'm a Buckeye fan. Why? Because that wasn't the problem last year. What was the problem last year? And really even 2 years ago, going back to the national championship game against Alabama, the defense. The defense was the problem. It was the problem against Bama. It was the problem against Oregon in the loss early last year. It was the problem against Michigan last year in that game. They couldn't get off the field. They didn't tackle well. The schematics were all screwed up. They haven't got it right. Ever since Jeff Hafley came in for that 1 year, they had a great defense with Chase Young and Jeff Okudah and Fuller as safety and so on and so forth, and Denzel Ward. And then guess what? Since then, it hadn't been very good. In fact, it hadn't been very good at all. And now Jim Knowles comes in as a new defensive coordinator, and he's charged with fixing not just the defense, but the title hopes for Ohio State. That might seem like hyperbole, but it's not. And the reason is because we know what they are on offense. They're a championship level offense. They're the best offense in the country. There's a good chance that C.J. Stroud winds up in New York and, judging by his play so far, could very well win the Heisman Trophy. That's not a surprise. But to win a national championship, you've got to play requisite defense. I've talked about this a lot. And folks, you're going to hear it again. going back all the way to basically the start of the BCS era, there's really only been a couple of teams that have won a national championship without a top 25 defense. And that's the Auburn team that had Cam Newton and Joe Burrow's LSU team. And they were close-ish. They were kind of there. Ohio State wasn't close last year. Their total defense last year was 59th. This year, all the way up to 18th, only giving up 283 yards per game. Their scoring defense, they're giving up almost a touchdown less than what they were a year ago. They were 38th a year ago. They're 21st now. So what do we know about Jim Knowles? Well, we know Jim Knowles is starting to fix this defense. 14 of those points for Wisconsin were basically garbage time, fourth quarter points. They had basically held them to a touchdown through the first three quarters of that game. And I know that with this offense, if they continue to stay at those points, 18th in total defense, 21st in scoring defense, pay attention to those, because if they stay there, this is a national championship team waiting to happen. Waiting to happen. Now, I don't know if they're going to win it or not, but at least they're going to be closer than the team that tried to go beat Alabama a couple of years ago that didn't even have close to a requisite defense. You've got to have a requisite defense. This offense, as good as it is, needs to have a requisite defense. And at least so far, it looks like Ohio State has that requisite defense.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoy that clip, make sure you click subscribe somewhere down here. From game highlights to exclusive interviews and rankings, we've got everything you need as a college football fan right here, College Football on Fox.